Following Halloween 2, just a year after its release, franchise fans received a film that both confused and even angered them. With no Michael Myers to stalk the streets of Haddonfield, we have instead a new threat, characters, and story. This would ultimately prove that the desire to make an annual anthology franchise was unwelcome. This is my review of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. The movie opens with the most retro credits you've ever seen, followed by an epilepsy test. And then we're in California with Harry Grimbridge, played by Al Berry, whom fellow Reanimator fans may recognize as Dr. Gruber. He's being chased by some rather odd fellows in suits, but manages to get away and seeks refuge at a gas station. Walter Jones, played by Essex Smith, gets into a hospital where Dr. Daniel Chalice, played by Tom Atkins, treats him. That's after he delivers an ominous warning about some unknown people or things that are going to kill everyone, of course. Unfortunately, Chalice won't be getting any clarification on the man's claims. You know what? If someone relocated a portion of my skull without even rending my flesh in the process, I'd simply pass away too. These Halloween hospitals are not the places to be sent to, I'm telling you. When Chalice goes after the man in the suit, his solution is to commit Michael Bayside. Over the course of the next few days, Grimbridge's daughter Ellie, played by Stacey Nelkin, arrives to identify him and goes to Chalice looking for answers. Since he would also like some clarification, they decide to do an investigation in Santa Mira, where Ellie figures her father encountered something sinister. There's a novelty factory there called Silver Shamrock, which has been producing apparently very popular Halloween masks. It's owned by Connell Cochran, played by the late Dan O'Hurley. Given the warm welcome they receive once they arrive, they decide to get a room at the local motel so they can come up with a plan. This place has some interesting characters, but Chalice does find out that Ellie's father had stayed here like she thought. That night, Chalice learns from a drunk that Cochran practically runs this little town, and has surveillance everywhere. Plus, there is indeed some fishy shit going on in that factory. So naturally, the drunk gets his head ripped off by more men in suits. Speaking of carnage, another resident of the motel, Marge, played by the late Garn Stevens, discovers something odd about the Silver Shamrock mask tags. Well, that's worse than lead paint on a kid's toy.
Don't let your kids watch it!
And wouldn't you know it, Cochran is also in charge of medical help. How convenient. The following morning, Chalice calls Teddy, played by Wendy Westberg, at the coroner's office. Apparently, the autopsy on what remains of the guy who blew himself up has only yielded mechanical parts, not human ones. There are no leads to be found at the factory. That is until Buddy, Betty, and the little Buddy Kupfer, played by the late Ralph Straight, Jadine Barber, and Brad Schachter, invite them along for their tour of the factory, during which they do find something.
That's Papa's car!
Well, I think I've seen enough. Time to call the police. Unless you can't, of course. And it looks like Chalice is going to have to go into the belly of the beast in order to rescue Ellie. But who will rescue him from these robots in suits? On the bright side, I guess Chalice will finally be learning all about what Cochran is doing and how.
It has a power in it. A force. Even a particle.
Right. So, what do these tiny pieces of Stonehenge do? So, the genocide of children through Halloween masks. You know, I hate to tell you this, Cochran, but I believe another business has already been working on killing kids on a massive scale.
The barriers will be down, you see, between the real and the unreal. And the dead might be looking in to sit by our fires of turf. Halloween, the festival of Samhain.
Well, at least he said it right. Not even a killer mask, straps, and a Halloween marathon can take Chalice out, though. He still has to get himself and Ellie out of this place, though. Before they leave, they use Cochran's own child-melting trademark tags against him. They're not done yet, as the program that triggers those tags is still being broadcast. Oh, also, Ellie was replaced with one of Cochran's robots. Major bummer, Chalice. I just hope she hadn't always been a robot, because that would bring up some very interesting and morally problematic kinks for the Doctor. No time to worry about having to behead the faux Ellie, though, because it's almost midnight. So, Chalice hauls ass to Walter's gas station and attempts to get stations to call off the broadcast. Is he successful? We don't know. And the credits roll with some Carpenter synth scoring. Yet another Halloween film with some John Carpenter scoring that I quite enjoy. It goes without saying that people will likely roll their eyes if you start playing the Silver Shamrock jingle, but its purpose is kind of to be annoying, so A+. How many times have you seen a movie where a demented toy maker uses robots to mass-produce Halloween masks with Stonehenge to kill children? It's an original concept that manages to make a ridiculous-sounding premise work. If you took away involvement in the Halloween franchise, which some may want anyway, Season of the Witch stands just fine on its own. It doesn't need Michael Myers to be a good Halloween-themed film, as one would expect to be rather important in such a franchise. The atmosphere does feel very Halloween-y. Even though it's set in California, it still gives off strong autumn vibes. There are some decent jump scares here. Cheap? A little bit, but certainly not hate-worthy. The special effects are properly gruesome and grotesque, especially when it comes to the deaths via silver shamrock masks. Something that I think the movie does rather well is create and build a sense of unsettled dread. This, combined with the mystery element of what the hell is going on in Silver Shamrock, makes it unique. While a majority of the special effects do look quite good, there are some that are kinda cheesy. Like when Cochran turns into the Silver Surfer and melds with Stonehenge, or the drunk whose latex bust gets separated from the rest of him. Unfortunately, this was the first and last attempt to try to turn the Halloween franchise into an annual anthology series. I can't blame the movie itself or those involved for this. By this point, people were expecting more Michael Myers. So, if Season of the Witch had been attempted a bit earlier, maybe it would have gone over smoother. While I do enjoy Season of the Witch, I've always felt it was missing a little something for me to really like it. I couldn't tell you what that is, and maybe it's simply because it feels a little slow in places. I can kind of understand why some people would be disappointed with this film, especially when it was released, and when Michael Myers was a pretty prevalent name attached to Halloween. On its own, it's perfectly fine. In a soon-to-be slasher franchise, it sticks out a bit. With all that being said, I'm giving Halloween 3 Season of the Witch 6.5 out of 10 bloody thumbs up. When it was first released and for years after, Season of the Witch was essentially the punching bag of the franchise. Many hated it purely because Michael Myers was not the focus of the film. My own papa referred to this movie as a waste of film. However, more recently, people have been giving it another chance, and finding it to either be an acceptable seasonal film, or an underrated movie. When I first watched Season of the Witch, I sincerely did not understand the hate it had been receiving. I'm glad it's rising up the ranks now, so to speak. I honestly like the idea of an anthology like Carpenter and Hill had originally planned. It would be cool to look forward to a new Halloween-centered horror film every year. Overall, people claiming that Season of the Witch is a terrible movie just because Michael isn't in it is stupid. If you're in the mood for some Myers, then skip this one. And pick which plotline you want to go down. If you just want a movie with all those pumpkin-scented fall vibes, then you can easily enjoy it. I would recommend Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, to Halloween, the season, enthusiasts, people who don't mind seeing kids in danger in horror movies, mystery thriller fans, and anyone who would love to see Tom Atkins' cheeks. See you later. If you're looking for more Halloween festivities, check out my reviews of Trick or Treat 2007 and the rest of the Halloween franchise. Thank you to my patrons Michael Musale, The Horror Show, Bronson Wright Wolf, Diana Mo, Sean Sheridan, Raiders AK, and Derek Sears for supporting the channel.